to hear her story and to see her courage. This is what we need more of. People, consider the cost and then press on, because you got to do the right thing. So Chloe has come here. She's been all over the place. I don't know if you guys saw down in DC, there was a detransitioning day a couple of days ago. She's been all over the country. She's originally from California, but she's bebopping all over the place, sharing her message, sharing her vision, giving hope to all kinds of young people. And I am amazingly fortunate to be able to introduce her to all of you. So thank you, Chloe, for being here.
Thank you, Representative, and thank you all for being here. I've been told that this is a pretty big rally for me, but to be honest, this is a pretty big rally for anywhere, and I'm from California. Well, this certainly is not California weather, but I can tough it out. My name is Chloe Cole, and I am a 20-year-old detransitioned woman from the Central Valley of California. Now, I often talk about the gender issue from the perspective of somebody who has detransitioned and about the medical and legislative side of it. So you guys might be surprised that I actually have something to say about the women's sports side of things. Well, when I was a little girl, I was a tomboy. I always aligned a little bit more with the boys around me, with their interests, with my male role models. And I actually aspired throughout a lot of my childhood to become a female athlete. But transgenderism took away my opportunity to become that. For many years of my childhood, I was made to feel that my natural athleticism, that my musculature, my tomboyish tendencies had made me less of a female, that it took away from me. And that because I was like this, because I was unique, because I was strong and stubborn, that maybe I would have been better off and happier as a young man. Believing that I wasn't actually supposed to be my mom and dad's daughter, but instead their son. I was led down the route of medical transition as a child. I was put on puberty blockers, rather chemical castration drugs at 13, alongside steroids, and my breasts were surgically removed when I was 15 years old, before I could even legally drive a car, before I had a permit. And while I was gaining muscle, strength, agility, while I was on testosterone, in the long term, all of these treatments have weakened my body and made it difficult for me to bounce back to the degree of fitness that I was at before. I medically detransitioned at the age of 16 when I realized that all of this was a mistake, that this never should have happened to me in the first place, but also that I was beautiful the way that I was. And I've tried my best to go back as much as I can, but the truth is that these treatments are completely irreversible. The blockers, the testosterone, the surgery, and even the psychological transition itself are something that I'm still grappling with the effects of 4 years later. And among many things, I'm experiencing joint and spinal and nerve issues. You'll often see the girls and women who are on these treatments starting to have to use canes and wheelchairs and mobility devices when they're in their mid-teens to early 20s. Because what these treatments do is literally cripple the body. At 13 years old, these adults around me, these doctors who are supposed to help me and my family get through what should have just been a minor speed bump in my life at that point. Whether my transition or becoming an athlete was going to become was going to be more important to me. But I was led to believe that this was life-saving care for me, that I had a chronic affliction that somehow actually made me a boy, that this was my only treatment, and that this was the basis of my identity. So of course, I took the route of transitioning. Now, having been on these treatments myself, I have a bit of a unique perspective on how the male and female body differ. I took testosterone, which is a Schedule III controlled substance and a known performance-enhancing drug. Even as a preteen girl, I understood that by taking these treatments, it would change my body. And even though I would be stronger than the other girls, I never would be able to compete with the boys either, because of my innate biological differences. Testosterone would not be able to change my reality. I knew that I would have an unfair advantage over the other girls, but also, on the other hand, I would still be too weak to compete with the opposite sex, and that I probably would fail my physical in the first place by being on a performance-enhancing drug. If I, as a 13-year-old girl, could reason all of this, it's clear that these older boys and these grown men who are choosing to compete against little girls and women can do the very same. They understand the danger that they are putting the women around them in. And yes, these young men may be struggling a lot in their personal lives, and they deserve proper counseling that doesn't involve lying to them. But it's not our responsibility to indulge in their delusion that they actually are female. It appears that many schools and these sports organizations have been severely misled about what it means to actually be compassionate and to create a fair playing field for their students and their athletes. They've been convinced that because a minority of their students deeply struggle with their identity and their mental health, they must bend the knee completely to their desires. This just is not true. It's not compassionate to lie to a mentally ill man and encourage him to go down a route of personal, lifelong destruction. It certainly is not compassionate to the girls around him to facilitate his intrusion into their intimate spaces, to allow him to be amongst them as they do activities that they never would want to with a stranger male. Changing, showering, using the restroom, to put the opposing team at a serious disadvantage and to put every other girl at grave risk of being severely injured and losing educational opportunities. Maine's Human Rights Act was amended 4 years ago to include gender identity as a protected characteristic. But we all understand that it is not a human right for a man to assert himself as a woman and to infringe upon real women's fairness, privacy, and safety. But it clearly is a right for girls and women to have every single one of those things to be protected. As women, our Title IX protections are being violated right now, and they have been for years, under the guise of helping a protected class of people. Gender ideology is a complete subversion of basic reality. And it hurts everybody involved. Every institution that it has touched, it has completely destroyed. But there's a cultural revolution right now, and it is clear that the public is absolutely sick of gender ideology's destructive tenets. We are sick of being lied to. We are sick of having our families disrupted, of having our children ripped away from us, their innocence ripped away from them at increasingly young ages, and our girls and women around us losing our right to privacy and fairness. But our country is rapidly changing. Trump has released an executive order to keep men out of women's sports. And this is going to be a major first step in not only protecting the classes of both sexes, but also the fairness between them. But an executive order is just that. It is not a law. And we need to go further and codify it into legislation on the federal level and on the state level. Because organizations like the MPA have decided that they're going to violate these federal directives to continue allow boys and men to disrupt the fairness that we as women deserve and had fought for decades. We need legislation to protect women's rights, to protect the rights of our girls and of our children, to be supported, to pass through, to be defended in the courts, to ensure that the progress that we have made will not be in vain, that it cannot just easily be thrown into the trash. And I believe that Trump has said it best. We need to continue to fight. And every single one of us has a role in this battle.
Elections matter!
Absolutely. And we have a role in that.
Yes, we do!
So let's continue in this fight until the very end. Until the end of the finish line. When this ideology is completely eradicated from our public spaces, from our institutions, and no children, no young girls and women are being hurt in the name of gender ideology ever again in the United States. Thank you all so much for the warm welcome.